Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gunner. So it's late December right now, and as the seasons across the country are starting to wind down, particularly here in Wisconsin, season ends January 7th, bow season. But I want to talk a little bit about my approach to the off season. What your first step should be when you're looking to make changes, make an adjustment to find success down the road next fall, falls to come. So first and foremost is I'm scouting. I'm physically scouting my property now. I'm not concerned with spooking deer off my property at this time. Now, as it gets into February and March, I tend to stay away just so I can try to pick up some shed antlers. But as of right now, late December, into that kind of dead month of January, I'm picking this parcel apart. I'm finding things that I might not have known were there before. I'm looking for scrapes, rubs. You can see here, I've got a big rub tree. This is historical as well. You can see there's tines dug out right there. It's been here for years. But there's a big scrape running along here, a huge inside corner on this trail. I'm trying to take note of these types of things. Any sort of sign that I can apply to a movement that's happening, I want to take a mental note and even a physical note. I'll write it down on my phone. I'll drop a pin on Onyx or whatever app you use. But you want to pay attention to these types of things. You want to find those main areas that deer are spending time. And when you find those areas, you want to look for this physical confirmation. The rubs, the scrapes, the tracks, the beds. You want to find that type of stuff and you want to confirm it with sign. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you have scouted your property, or the properties that you hunt at least, before. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add. I'm continually adding to my bank of knowledge because things are constantly changing in the woods. We've got select cutting that happens. We've got clear cutting that happens. We've got changes in food source. That's a big one. Now, if you go from corn to beans back and forth like that, you'll start to pick up on the difference and the changes that happen when it comes to whether you have corn or beans that year. And that's something you really want to take into consideration when you're doing this scouting, because your property can change night and day based on what the primary food source is. But first and foremost, I'm assessing how my season went. Did I see daylight movement? Was daylight movement very prevalent? If not, I want to find the answer to why that was. If I have a nocturnal parcel and I'm not getting a lot of daytime movement, maybe it's just daytime movement from bucks, but I'm trying to find that root source of why that's occurring. My first reaction to not a lot of daytime movement is going to go to a couple different things. It's going to be not a lot of high stem count cover. You have open canopy forest where deer or big bucks do not feel secure traveling during daylight. Now, if that's the case, you can correct this simply by promoting regeneration by taking some older mature trees that don't necessarily have value to wildlife at this moment. Now, I recommend getting a hold of your forester and a logger before you start in with this if you don't know what you're doing, because the last thing we want to do is drop a bunch of trees for the benefit of deer hunting, but at the same time cause a negative effect on other subspecies of animals. Timber management is a tricky subject when it comes to managing for a specific species of wildlife. We want to try to manage for as many species of wildlife as we can without the negative side effects of removing habitat for another while benefiting, say, deer. So that's something that's important. Get a hold of professionals that know what they're doing. Maybe you can make some money off the timber that's standing on your land that doesn't necessarily have benefit for wildlife, but at the same time, we have to be conscious of not removing all of it and not allowing ourselves to be bought off and completely removing a species from your property just because of a lot of money that could be in your pocket. So that's the first step. That's the first thing you need to find out. Do you have high quality cover? Is it promoting daylight activity on your property? Number two is going to be pressure. If you're overpressuring your property, of course you're not going to have daylight movement, especially from big bucks. You need to hunt your property smart by the wind. You need to stay hidden with topography or cover. Topography is a huge form of cover in this area when it comes to exiting and entering stand locations. You can really use it to your advantage. So if you have topography, you have a huge benefit when it comes to cover and hunting properties safely. So now the next thing I'm trying to analyze is, did I have the quality of bucks or the age class that I was looking for, that I'm looking to grow and hold on my property? Now in my situation, yes, but there's always a maintenance factor when it comes to if you are succeeding in having and holding the mature bucks or the bucks that you want to successfully harvest. If you are seeing those deer, you're holding those deer, and you're getting opportunities at those deer, you can't just become complacent. There's always work and improvement that you can continue to do. You have to maintain the high quality property and the cover, the food, the low pressure that those deer are enjoying and why they are spending time on your land. If you don't maintain that, eventually it's going to disappear. Just like it did before you made the improvements on your land and created that good property, that safe, secure property that deer felt comfortable on. Guys, it's Gunnar. Look, if you like the video, like what you're seeing, but you still need more help, shoot me a message. I'll help you with whatever you need. I got your back for life. Now let's get back to the video. Now another thing that's really important that I'm looking for is big positive sign. Now, finding big rubs doesn't necessarily mean it's a big buck, but in most cases, it is. I'm looking for big, huge rubs just like this, shredded up and down in a bedding area. If I found one big bed in a good thick pocket and it's shredded on big, large diameter trees, I know a big buck is spending time there, and that's a positive form of sign. If all my trees that are rubbed are just small 2-inch diameter trees, that's a little bit concerning to me, because that means, well, maybe I don't have the quality of bucks that I'm looking for, or maybe my property isn't attracting those type of quality deer that I'm trying to harvest. So you want to pay attention. The more sign, the bigger the sign, bigger the bucks in most cases. Now, when I find the areas that the deer are spending a lot of time on, I'm analyzing the cover, right? I'm analyzing, okay, what form of cover is in this area and why are they enjoying that? Why are they liking that form of cover? A lot of times it's going to be real heavy, thick blackberry briars, or high stem count regeneration popple, aspen, or maybe in the cold winter months, it's real low to the ground thermal cover, as in pine trees, cedar trees, things of that sort. Maybe it's switchgrass pockets that I've implemented that are still holding strong even if there's snow on the ground. Those are things you want to look for and analyze. Why are deer here? Ask yourself the question, why? Why is a deer spending time here? And then you can duplicate that in the other areas of your property to try to replicate that movement and hold more deer. That's what they mean when people say, make your property hunt bigger. It's putting lots of areas that deer would enjoy on a property. Anybody can have one good spot on a property, but can you have multiple good areas where deer are wanting to consistently spend time? That's the key. That's what you're trying to go for. Make your property feel huge. If you only have 50 acres, but you only have one good thick area, it's not going to feel like your property is very big, because deer are moving through it quickly because they don't feel safe in the cover. But if you have 50 acres, that's very thick, very dense cover, you have good food, and it's low pressure, deer are going to spend a lot more time on there, and it's going to feel like it hunts so much bigger because you can't see clear across the hillside. So they're becoming far more prevalent on that property because they don't have to just bolt across a wide open hillside. They can take their time, they can ease through it. They can feed around on this hillside for acorns, for native browse. They can chase does and they can hold does, and they don't have to feel concerned about danger in that area. So it's gonna feel like it hunts much bigger than it really is. Now the last thing that I wanna touch on is the food. So this year in my case, and a lot of people in the Midwest, it was a great year for acorns. Great year, which I'm sure somebody has the answer to it because it was a drought in most of the Midwest. I'm not sure what that correlation is, whether dry years produce more acorns. I don't know. That's something I'm sure somebody has the answer to, but I don't. But regardless, it was a great year for acorns, and the deer spent a lot of time in the woods. Big acorn years don't correlate with a lot of hunting success, because the less a deer has to move, the less chance we as hunters have to harvest them. So that's something I'm going to take into consideration when I start scouting here, because even with the quality food plots and quality standing grain that I have, I could tell there was a decrease in deer spending time at those food sources because of the quality acorns in the woods. They didn't have to put themselves in danger by coming and traveling a few hundred yards to the food source. They just stood up in the bedding areas, in that thick security cover in the timber where nothing can get to them and pawed around for acorns and fed on those for a majority of the season. Now, another thing that I noticed this year is we didn't have a lot of snow. We had virtually no snow, and we still do. So that's another thing that makes it hard to hunt. Deer have no reason to come out of the timber when they have all sorts of native browse and acorns and foliage on the ground that they can continue to feed on throughout those winter months when there's no snow covering it. So of course they don't have to travel out to standing grain during those late season times because there's no snow forcing them to. When you get snow forcing deer out of bedding areas and the food sources within them, that's when you have high success on standing grain, on food plots, on supplemental food. So that's something you have to take into consideration. No matter how good your food plots or standing grain or supplemental food of any sort is, if deer don't have a reason to come out and feed on that because they're not forced out by weather, if it's not cold weather, if there's no snow forcing them out to look for that easy food, they're not coming out. Why would they? It's the same type of situation as if you had a 30-pack of beer in your fridge. You're not going to go out to the bar and get beers because you already have some in your house. So that's the same type of analogy that a deer has. They already have food in their house. Why are they going to go somewhere else to get it? Far less danger on top of that. So these are a few things that I'm looking to analyze right away here as these seasons start to wind down. I'm going to start walking around. I'm going to try to analyze what's going on the property, where the high traffic areas are, what type of sign I can find. Is there any movements that I can take advantage of for the next season? And jot all this down because what's written down will be retained. So when it comes to off-season scouting, get out right away, right after that season. Take note of the sign you see, anything you can possibly use to your benefit for the following seasons. You're going to want to take note of and start contemplating how you can apply that to be more successful next season. Guys, it's Gunnar. Look, if you like this video, if it helped you at all, like, share, subscribe. It helps me a ton. We'll spread the message. Let's blow this thing up. Also, check me out on Instagram, Gunnar_Hanson, GUNNAR_HANSON. Remember, results are the only thing that matters. Let's get them.